Treehouse of Horror 1 from Season 2. So the first episode begins with a Frankenstein parody. Marge warns viewers that the episode may scare children.
So if you have sensitive children, maybe you should tuck them into bed early tonight instead of writing us angry letters tomorrow.
Homer returns from trick-or-treating and sees Bart and Lisa telling ghost stories in Bart's treehouse. Curious, he climbs up and listens as Bart starts his first story. It's the Bad Dream House. The Simpsons buy a cheap house, but Lisa and Marge sense something is wrong. Homer ignores them until strange things start happening. A swirling vortex appears in the kitchen, a lamp cord attacks Bart, and a mysterious voice demands they leave. At night, the house takes control of Homer and the kids, making them grab weapons to kill each other, but Marge stops them. They discover their home is built over an ancient Indian burial ground. The house threatens them again.
You will die slowly.
Shut up! Quit trying to push us around! Stop saying those horrible things and show some manners!
Shocked, the house asks for time to think and ultimately chooses to self-destruct rather than live with the Simpsons. Lisa feels insulted, saying,
It chose to destroy itself rather than live with us. You can't help but feel a little rejected.
The next story is Hungry Are the Damned. During a backyard barbecue, a spaceship beams up the Simpsons. They meet Kang, Kodos, and Sarek, who treat them with extreme kindness, preparing them for the great feast at Rigel 4. They keep feeding the family enormous meals and even weigh them. Lisa grows suspicious. Late at night, she sneaks into the kitchen and finds Sarek cooking. She grabs a dusty book titled How to Cook Humans and accuses the aliens of fattening them up to eat them. But when the aliens clean the book, the full title appears, How to Cook for 40 Humans. Hurt by Lisa's false accusation, they return the family to Earth. Before leaving, they explain that the Simpsons could have lived like gods, but because of Lisa's lack of trust, they must now remain ordinary. Lisa admits, "We were the real monsters." But Bart and Homer sarcastically thank her for ruining their chance at luxury. Next story is The Raven. In a retelling of The Raven, the narrator, Homer, mourns his lost love, Lenore, Marge, when knocking sounds disturb him. He checks the door, but no one is there. Eventually, he opens the window, and a raven, Bart, flies in, perching above the door. The raven repeatedly says,
Eat my shorts. Bart, stop it. He says nevermore, and that's all he'll ever say. Okay.
The narrator becomes enraged and tries to catch the raven, destroying his room in the process. Finally, he collapses helplessly while the raven laughs. Bart complains that the raven was more depressing than scary. Lisa explains that it was written in 1845 and people were easier to scare back then. They also discuss how today's horror movies, like Friday the 13th, aren't that scary either. The kids climb down from the treehouse and head to bed. But Homer, who had been secretly listening, is genuinely terrified. As they lie in bed, Marge reassures him that they were just stories. But when Homer sees the Bart Raven perched outside the window, he panics, declaring that he hates Halloween and hides under the covers as a wolf howls in the distance. Treehouse of Horror 2 from Season 3, which starts when Homer is at home, watching the news and eating candy when Jimbo and Kearney arrive, threatening to egg his house unless he gives them his candy. He gives in, but they still egg the house. Meanwhile, Marge, Lisa, and Bart return from trick-or-treating with a large haul of candy. Marge warns them not to eat too much, or they'll have nightmares. They laugh it off, but Bart and Lisa end up having nightmares. First story is the monkey's paw. So while visiting Morocco, Homer buys a mysterious monkey's paw that grants wishes, but with great misfortune. Back home, the family argues over how to use it. Marge warns them to listen to the vendor's advice, but Maggie wishes for a golden pacifier, and Bart wishes for the family to be rich and famous. The pacifier seems fine, but their fame leads to public backlash as they appear on everything from t-shirts to mammogram billboards. Lisa wishes for world peace, which allows Kang and Kodos to invade Earth and enslave humanity. Everyone blames the Simpsons. Marge begs Homer to fix it, but he refuses, wanting something normal. He wishes for a turkey sandwich with no weird surprises. The sandwich looks perfect, except the turkey is a little dry. Enraged, Homer throws the paw away. Ned Flanders finds it and makes his first wish.
I guess my first wish is to get rid of those awful aliens.
To Homer's horror, it works, and Ned is hailed as a hero. Then, Ned wishes for his home to become a castle, while Homer watches in seething frustration. After Lisa wakes up from her nightmare, she asks to sleep in Bart's bed. He refuses until she offers a candy necklace. As he eats it, he tells her she can stay, adding,
Let's talk more sleep.
before glancing at the Krusty the Clown Jack-in-the-Box on his table and going back to sleep. Next story is the Bart Zone. In Bart's nightmare, he has the power to bend reality and read minds. If anyone thinks badly of him, he punishes them. The entire town lives in fear, forced to please him. At home, Bart demands to watch Krusty, but Homer refuses. In retaliation, Bart teleports him to a football stadium. Replacing the ball, Homer slams into the field post. Furious, Homer tries to hit Bart with a chair when he returns, but Bart reads his mind and turns him into a jack-in-the-box. Marge takes them to Dr. Marvin Monroe, who suggests they bond. Homer and Bart go fishing, attend church, play baseball, and visit an amusement park. Bart grows closer to Homer and turns him back to normal. Overwhelmed by emotion, Homer gives Bart a fatherly kiss. Bart wakes up screaming in terror. Still shaken, Bart and Lisa run to Homer and Marge's bed, asking to sleep with them. Homer sighs, realizing he has to wake up for work in 2 hours. Next story is If Only I Had a Brain. In Homer's nightmare, he gets fired for sleeping on the job and becomes a gravedigger. While napping in an open grave, Mr. Burns and Smithers find him and assume he's dead. They take him to their lab, remove his brain, and place it in a robot. However, the robot inherits Homer's laziness, clumsiness, and love for donuts, frustrating Mr. Burns. Smithers convinces Burns to put Homer's brain back, but once restored, the robot falls on Burns, crushing him. To save his life, Burns' head is sewn onto Homer's body. Homer wakes up, relieved it was just a dream, until he sees Mr. Burns' head still attached. Later, in a fake preview for the next episode, the Simpsons eat breakfast. Lisa reminds Homer of the school's all-you-can-eat spaghetti dinner, but Burns reminds him of their royal reception in the Netherlands. Homer groans.
Oh, I hate having two heads.
Treehouse of the Horror 3 from Season 4, which starts in a spoof of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Homer warns viewers that the episode may be too scary and offend some crybaby religious types. He mockingly calls them chickens before the screen goes black. Over the darkness, Marge asks if he called the viewers chickens.
Homer, did you just call everyone chicken?
No. I swear on this Bible.
That's not a Bible. That's a book of carpet samples.
The opening features a graveyard with tombstones for Drexel's class, R. Buckminster Fuller, slapstick, and American workmanship. The first Halloween-themed couch gag follows, where the Simpsons appear as skeletons. At a Halloween party, Homer, dressed as Julius Caesar, gets his toga ripped, making the kids laugh. Martin, dressed as Calliope, gets punched by Nelson the pirate. Bart, dressed as Alex DeLarge from A Clockwork Orange, complains about missing trick-or-treating. Marge, Cleopatra, starts a spooky game with fake body parts, but Homer eats them all, ruining the fun. Marge asks for scary stories, and Lisa, Statue of Liberty, shares one about a boy and a cursed doll. First story is Clown Without Pity. In a parody of The Twilight Zone's Living Doll and Child's Play, Homer forgets Bart's birthday gift and buys a talking Krusty doll from the sinister House of Evil, which also sells cursed frozen yogurt. The doll is kind to Bart, but repeatedly tries to kill Homer. No one believes him except Grandpa. Homer traps the doll in dirty socks and dumps it in a bottomless pit, but it returns and nearly drowns him. Marge calls Krusty Co, and a repairman discovers the doll was set to evil. Switching it to good, the doll becomes Homer's servant. In the end, Krusty complains about giving Homer a sponge bath while flirting with Malibu Stacy. Next story is King Homer. Homer attempts to tell a horror story, but it's so nonsensical that even Grandpa criticizes it. Instead, Grandpa recounts a tale inspired by King Kong. In a black and white parody of the 1933 film, Mr. Burns takes Marge to Ape Island as bait to capture King Homer. The ape kills much of Burns' crew before being sedated. Brought to Broadway, King Homer breaks free, kidnaps Marge, and causes chaos, even eating Shirley Temple. He tries to climb the Empire State Building but collapses from exhaustion. Marge suggests he eat more vegetables. The story ends with King Homer marrying Marge and eating her father at their wedding. Third story is Dial Z for Zombies. Marge disappoints party guests by offering fruit instead of candy. Ned arrives in a headless costume, prompting Bart to boast that his story will make people wet their pants, only for the Grandpa to reveal he already has. At school, Bart fails a book report and finds an occult book in the library. Hoping to revive Lisa's deceased cat, he mistakenly raises Springfield's dead instead. Zombies terrorize the town, turning many into undead, including Skinner, Flanders, Krusty, and the bullies. The Simpsons barricade their home, except for the back door, which Homer forgot. The zombies ignore him due to his lack of brains. Lisa realizes they need a counterspell from the school's library. Homer fights off famous zombies like George Washington and Shakespeare with a shotgun, while Bart and Lisa search. After an accidental spell turns Lisa into a snail, Bart finds the right one, restoring everything. The episode ends with the family mindlessly watching TV like zombies, proving they never really needed a spell. Treehouse of Horror 4 from Season 5. The episode opens in a creepy cemetery, transitioning to the Simpsons' home, where they crash through the floor of zombies. Bart, inspired by Night Gallery, tries introducing the episode, but Marge warns viewers it's too scary. Ignoring her, Bart proceeds with the first tale. First story is The Devil and Homer Simpson. At work, Homer dreams of a donut fashion show but finds none left. Desperate, he declares he'd sell his soul for one. Instantly, the devil, revealed to be Ned Flanders, appears with a contract. Homer signs it but cleverly leaves one bite, voiding the deal. Later, a sleepy Homer unknowingly eats the last piece. The devil reappears, dragging him to hell. There, Homer undergoes ironic torture, force-fed infinite donuts which he devours happily. Meanwhile, Lisa demands a fair trial and the devil agrees, setting it for midnight. In court, Lionel Hutz represents Homer, while the devil chooses a jury of notorious historical figures. Hutz bails mid-trial, but Marge presents an old wedding photo where Homer pledged his soul to her. The jury rules in her favor, freeing Homer, but as revenge, the devil turns his head into a donut. The next morning, Homer can't resist nibbling on himself while cops wait outside with coffee. Next story is Terror at 5.5 feet. Bart has a nightmare of a school bus crash. On board the next morning, he sees a gremlin dismantling the bus but can't convince anyone. His panic worsens as the creature continues destroying the vehicle unnoticed. Skinner ties Bart down to calm him, but Bart gets loose and knocks the gremlin off with an emergency flare. The gremlin lands on Flanders' car, who kindly picks it up despite its attack attempts. The school bus arrives completely wrecked, but Bart is still sent to an asylum for his delusions. Just as he starts relaxing, the gremlin reappears outside the truck, holding Flanders' severed, still-talking head. Next story is Bart Simpson's Dracula. A news report covers a drained blood murder with a cape found at the scene. Lisa suspects vampires, but Wiggum blames mummies. Meanwhile, Mr. Burns conveniently buys a blood bank. The Simpsons visit Burns's castle, where Lisa notices blatant vampire signs, but only she seems concerned. She and Bart discover his lair, but Bart is caught and bitten. That night, he visits Lisa, now a vampire, and attempts to turn her. The family stops him, realizing the only cure is killing Burns, the supposed head vampire. They return to the castle, and Homer stakes Burns, accidentally stabbing his crotch first. Burns dies, firing Homer with his last breath. The next morning, just as Lisa celebrates their victory, the entire family reveals they're vampires, because Marge is the real head vampire. They wish viewers a happy Halloween, mimicking a Charlie Brown Christmas. Treehouse of Horror 5 from Season 6. Marge warns viewers that this episode is terrifying and may be too scary for TV. As an old movie starts playing, Bart interrupts through radio waves.
We are controlling the transmission.
Homer briefly joins to mess around,
Hey, look! I can see my voice!
before Bart introduces the episode. During the intro, Moe hangs himself, Patty and Selma are burned as witches, and Bart beheads Principal Skinner using a guillotine. The family appears as a Frankenstein's monster, swapping body parts until they fit. First story is The Shining. In this parody of The Shining, the Simpsons become caretakers of Mr. Burns' mansion. On the drive there, Homer repeatedly turns back to locked doors and ignores Lisa when she points out they've left Grandpa behind. Burns gives a tour of the mansion, built on an ancient burial ground, and an elevator full of blood opens, which he finds normal. Outside, Bart uses a chainsaw to create a shortcut through the maze, upsetting groundskeeper Willie, who realizes Bart has the Shining, a parody of The Shining's telepathy. Willie tells Bart to call him if Homer goes crazy. Burns and Smithers cut off the TV and beer, assuming it will make Homer more productive, but instead, Homer quickly loses it. Moe's ghost convinces him to kill his family for a beer. Marge later finds Homer typing pages of "No TV and no beer make Homer go crazy." When she confronts him, he snaps and lunges at her, yelling,
Don't mind if I do!
Marge fights him off with a bat, locks him in the pantry, and Moe frees him with a group of monsters. Homer breaks through doors while shouting references like, "Here's Johnny," before finding his family. Lisa discovers Willie's dropped TV outside, which restores Homer's sanity. The family freezes in the snow watching TV, and they panic when the Tony Awards start playing. Next story is Time and Punishment. At breakfast, Homer gets his hand stuck in the toaster twice before fixing it in the basement. He accidentally turns it into a time machine and travels back to the dinosaur era, where he kills a mosquito. Returning home, he finds Flanders has taken over the world. Homer escapes Flanders' brainwashing facility and returns to the past, but sneezes on a T8 Rex, wiping out the dinosaurs. In the new timeline, his family is wealthy and well-behaved, but there are no donuts, so he panics and returns to the past again. Homer repeatedly tries fixing the future, but only makes things worse. Willie shows up to help, but is killed by Maggie with an axe. Homer eventually settles for a timeline where his family has snake tongues and size close enough. Third story is Nightmare Cafeteria. Bart is sent to detention after a prank on Mrs. Krabappel goes wrong. Overcrowded detention leads Skinner to suggest cooking the students. Lunch Lady Doris accidentally spills stew on Jimbo, and Skinner realizes students make tasty meals. Jimbo is turned into Sloppy Jimbo, and Yuta is soon served as Yuta Brayton. Lisa becomes suspicious, but Marge doesn't believe her and Bart. The next day, fewer students remain, and Wendell is sent to detention, where he is cooked next. As Bart, Lisa, and Milhouse try to escape, they see students trapped in cages. Willie attempts to help, but is killed with an axe. Skinner corners the kids near a food processor. Milhouse falls in and is gooified. Bart and Lisa fall next, but it turns out to be Bart's nightmare. He wakes up, but a mysterious fog seeps in, turning the family inside out. They perform a musical number, and Santa's little helper drags Bart off stage by his intestines. Treehouse of the Horror 6 from Season 7, where the episode begins with Krusty as the Headless Horseman, holding his laughing head and throwing it at the camera. The show's title appears in blood. In the couch gag, the family is hanging from nooses, dead, but Maggie still manages to suck on her pacifier. First story is Attack of the 50 Feet Eyesores. Homer visits Lard Lad Donuts for a colossal donut, but is disappointed to find it's much smaller than expected. Angry, he steals the giant metal donut from the Lard Lad mascot. During a freak storm, Lard Lad and other giant advertising mascots come to life, terrorizing Springfield. Even after Homer returns the donut, the chaos continues. Lisa seeks help from the ad agency, responsible for the mascots. The executive explains that ads lose power if ignored, so the townspeople need to stop looking at the monsters. Paul Anka performs a song with Lisa, encouraging the town to just don't look.
Just don't look, just don't look.
The strategy works, and the mascots lose their power. Homer, however, can't stop staring at Lard Lad's donut until Bart and Lisa pull him away, causing the monster to collapse. Next story is Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace. Bart plays outside with his dog when groundskeeper Willie, resembling Freddy Krueger, attacks him with a rake in a nightmare. Bart wakes up with real rake marks on his body. Other kids reveal they've had similar nightmares where Willie harmed them, and the injuries carried over to reality. During a test, Martin falls asleep and is killed by Willie in his dream, dying in class with a terrified expression. Skinner, Krabappel, and Doris awkwardly try to remove the body without causing panic. Bart and Lisa tell Marge about the nightmares, and she explains how Willie was burned alive during a PTA meeting after Homer accidentally turned up the thermostat. Unable to put out the flames, Willie vowed revenge on their children in their dreams before turning to ashes. That night, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie try to stay awake, but Bart eventually falls asleep and confronts Willie in his dream. Willie shapeshifts into various forms, but Bart traps him in a sandpit. Just as Willie escapes as a bagpipe spider, Lisa enters the dream and is unable to wake Bart. Maggie arrives and clogs Willie's bagpipes with her pacifier, making him explode. The next day, things seem normal, but Lisa remains paranoid that Willie may return. Moments later, a bus arrives, and Willie gets off, failing to scare the kids before chasing the bus after forgetting his gun. Next story is Homer Cubed. To avoid Patty and Selma, Homer hides behind a bookshelf and stumbles into a mysterious portal that transforms him into a CGI version of himself in a strange, geometric world. As Homer explores, a cone punctures the ground, creating a sinkhole that drags him closer to it. Outside the portal, Professor Frink explains that Homer is stuck in the third dimension. Bart ties a rope around his waist and enters the dimension to rescue him. Bart is amazed by the strange world but can't reach Homer. Homer leaps towards Bart but falls short, disappearing into the black hole while shouting, "Crack, crack, crack!" Bart narrowly escapes back to reality with help from the rope. Homer lands in a dumpster in the real world, shocking passers-by. He soon forgets his situation when he spots a shop called Erotic Cakes and enters, leaving his fate unknown as the show ends.